I don't know if you know that.
All right, Bula.
Bula.
Welcome back, everybody. It is another episode of ATL on Fire, the podcast where we talk all things Atlanta United Football Club, all things soccer.
Yeah.
And I am joined by Dave, and we've got Carmen back as well. How's everybody doing?
Great. Very good.
You still have the glow of tropical vacation. I can see it.
You know, I do. I have to admit it. I'm still on the beach, especially mentally. So I will apologize in advance to all listeners, everybody.
It's nothing that can't be overcome by pushing some buttons.
This is true. This is you. You want a button? I feel like you're almost calling for a button. All right.
Here we go, right off the bat.
Dancing. See, this is the type of mood I'm in, people. But yes, I'm glad to be back, guys.
Nice.
Glad to have you back, Dave. How are you doing?
Good.
Oh, yeah. Well, you brought us a very nice one, a different type of grape, you were saying. Chilean, from a Chilean region.
So this is a Chilean. It's Montes. It's the winery. It's a very nice winery in the Colchuga Valley, which is sort of the Napa Valley of Chile. And this is their Montes Alpha, which is a slightly higher line. But the thing about it is, this is a Carmenere. Have you all had a Carmenere before?
I don't think I've ever heard of a Carmenere.
Like the native grape of Chile. Like that's the thing. That's their big thing, even more than Cabernet. So you have to let me know what you think of a Carmenere.
I'm very impressed.
Yeah, very good. I
haven't tried it yet.
Notes of like a peppery something, or am I making that up in my head?
I don't know. That's a different call by you. So, maybe you should trust your instincts. But I just feel like it's kind of creamy and smooth, really.
I taste it, Carmen. I'm with you. Yeah. I got the little peppery. I like it.
On the back end, I feel it. Yeah.
I could go with that.
But it is also complex.
Yeah, nice. Thank you for bringing this. This is a good change up.
You're welcome. I always have down under alternate regions when the team's not going well to bring us back up. And then sometimes when we're doing well, we on a run, then we go with, a nice Napa or something, good old American. But right now we're down in Chile because that's where the team is. Mikey Dobbs. And by the way, I should say, we on the podcast are the first to admit our faults. And one thing that was pointed out to us on the Twitter X machine, we were talking about where we would finish and whether or not we would get fourth to get a home field match. And of course, MLS changed their playoffs again, which we had talked about earlier in this year. And I completely forgot about it. I don't know about you, Mikey Dobbs, but I completely forgot about it. The first round is a 3-game series because we talked about how can you have, it's a home and home series, right? Yeah. How can you have a home and home series? Because there's no winner, but each one ends up with somebody has to win every match.
Oh.
So anyway, if we get in the playoffs, if we're not the 8-9 game, you have to be the 8 to be home. But if you're not that game, then you will get a home game no matter what.
Okay.
So there will be looking like a home game at the Benz in the playoffs. So,
okay.
We're the first to admit that we don't have a clue. And to be fair, they changed the playoff structure again, like the third time in 5 years or something like this. And they changed it literally the week the season started. So, okay. I mean, come on.
Well, for all the playoff changes, Dave, I feel like we should just have a moment of silence in respect of Wild Heaven beer because we forgot to thank our sponsor, Wild Heaven.
Are you going to?
I hope you guys enjoyed that moment of silence and respect for beer and Wild Heaven beer.
So for those of you listening on the podcast, what happened? We still can't figure out why we can't get the sound while the beer is pouring on our super sponsor logo. So if you watch on the YouTube channel, you'll see a beer pouring slowly, which is awesome. Wild Heaven, great beer, and you should go drink one right now. But if not, it's a moment of silence or zen in the middle of the podcast.
Think about when you should schedule that next visit. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the time. If you're listening to the podcast now and you're not in real time, was your time to get up and go get a Wild Heaven beer.
Absolutely.
So, Dave, another thing to mention is we tried to get all crafty as old people and do like a Instagram, TikTok video.
Yes.
And I'm noticing you've got the logo, the upside down logo on your shirt today. That I feel like there's some messaging here on where your head's at with.
There is,
the
but
team.
it's up to the audience to figure it out. It's like I was saying, the Beatles, Abbey Road, when John Lennon wasn't wearing shoes. What would it mean? Was he dead or what happened? But you have to figure out what it means that the logo is absolutely upside down.
It's like a Darren Eels type of message, but a little more straightforward. Not as crazy.
Yes.
All right. So let's jump into the Cincinnati game.
But actually, I'm just going to interrupt you one moment.
All right.
Because we did say that we would give Carmen a chance if she wanted to talk about the things about the Women's World Cup. Do you have some things to tell our audience about the Women's World Cup? We talked about it because we felt like we had to.
Y'all did.
But we missed you, so. Yeah,
I don't have a lot to add. I will say, though, one of the great World Cup, overall great World Cup. I thought it was a great final. One of the good things about kind of not doing well is you got a little behind the scenes because people start to talk. Like people who didn't make the team started to talk. You had the podcast with Kristen Press and Tobin Heath.
So what was your favorite jab out there that you heard by a player or by an ex-player?
Goodness. I thought Lindsey Horan came a little hard. Don't you think? She came a little hard. I can't remember whose podcast she was on. I
thought it was on the Tobin Heath
Was it on that one?
And Kristen Press, I thought that she appeared on that. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But I think that's what it was.
She came a little hard, I feel like, at the coaching, just talking about, what did you expect us to do? You just did not put us in a position to win.
Yeah.
Which is pretty much what we said would happen. So, disappointing. I'm excited to see who is coming up next as a coach. I'm excited to see what direction they go in now that we have some retirements.
Are you really excited, though, or are you apprehensive?
I'm excited. I actually am excited. I think we can do this right. How
are we going to do it right? The U.S. structure has shown no ability to get it right ever, right? When's the last time they got it right?
I know it's been a while, but I feel like
on the men's and women's side.
Men's and women's. You're right.
Did you guys hear the news out there that I guess Berhalter is yet to even speak to
He
GLN?
Hasn't even said anything to anything.
They've hired a consultant to
He needs to talk to his consultant before he can talk to whatever a mediator.
Oh my goodness gracious!
Talk to the child. I mean, this is child, but talk to the man. Just talk. You're a coach.
Yeah.
Come on, they might be trying. Pick up the phone.
I know, they might be trying too hard now. So
remember those the old AT&T reach out and touch someone. They call come on, reach out. Yeah. It's Gio Reyna. We need him.
Well, hopefully we got some people joining on the live stream now. I see some people coming in and out. Colonel ATL Dave already gave a shout out on our lack of knowledge of the playoffs, which keep changing. So if you've joined.
If you know
we will try to
what
get
the
better.
Playoff structure is, gold star for you, because that means you're following along when they change it every year.
And let's jump into the Cincinnati game. We played at home.
Correct. We were there.
On a wonderful Saturday evening.
And I should say Pineda was not there, right? Or he was not on the bench because he had received his yellow card suspension and he was not coaching the game. So do you know who was coaching the game? So Pineda was coached, he was he ran all the practices and stuff. He made the starting lineup, et cetera, but he was not on the touchline. He was not allowed to be on the touchline. Huh. So who would you expect to be the coach? And then I'll tell you that it wasn't him.
I don't even know who to expect. Go ahead, Mikey Dobbs.
Yeah. No.
Well, there's an assistant coach we had who have coached the team previously as a head coach.
Is who you'd expect. Right?
No, Glass is the guy who was terrible and gone. Valentine. Rob Valentine.
Rob Valentine. Right? Yeah. So he was not the one who was in charge.
No, he went with De La Torre was the head coach for the game, and Valentine was assisting him.
Yeah.
So so that means you can't blame Pineda for anything that happened in the game. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe
Rob Valentino should have been at the helm.
Maybe
that's what you're saying. I hear you.
He has a terrific record with Atlanta United, but yeah.
So we go into that game against the MLS leaders. We stick with the winning formula for the starting lineup. Zero tweaks was what you and I were talking about. And, I think this just shows some basicness of Pineda's logic too, right? Of not trying to, I don't think you need to overthink it. If you have a winning lineup, yeah. But at the same time, you're going up against the best team in the league. There probably should be at least maybe one little adjustment that you make. That's like your little fine-tuned bet on what you're going to do to influence the team, and my opinion there is like, I would have rather seen Saba start over Mascara in that game. Of course, he got the goal, right? But at the end of the day, when you look at his overall portfolio play in that game, I'd have still rather had Saba. He may have had 2 goals in that game. So I felt like whether it was that move or something in the center mid, obviously behind, Moyamba having, Sosa in or something like that to mix it up. We didn't see either one of those. Those would have been like the 2 things I would have looked at. Dave, what would you have thought of as an adjustment against the Shield leading MLS team in Cincinnati in the way that they're set up?
Well, the interesting thing is, so this time of year, you would say you should have some tweaks just for squad rotation to keep people fresh. Now, that being said, we got knocked out so early from the Leagues Cup. They had just come off a huge break. So maybe you don't need squad rotation. And then you could say, look, we played the same starting lineup. But even in that case, I would say it's hard to imagine how Seattle on the road, Nashville at home, Cincinnati at home are all the same, right? Like, you might think that there might be a reason to tweak something, and I don't know whether I would have tweaked it for those games, but I certainly would have tweaked it because I don't think he has the best starting lineup. But the bottom line is that Pineda, when we win, it's like almost like superstition. He will not change the team no matter what.
Yeah.
Like, unless there's an injury, I feel like he says if you win, it stays. You get to stay. So I literally felt like this is what I felt like. And here's the scenario, the crazy scenario, right? So we just bought a new designated player, Saba, right? And before he comes in, we win on the road at Seattle, we win at Nashville. So if we went on an 8-game winning streak or 10, let's say we went the rest of the year, let's just say a ridiculous scenario, without losing a match, that means Saba, as a designated player, is not going to get a start the rest of the year.
Yeah.
And this is the problem with saying, okay, if you win, then you stick with the same lineup. Like, in general, sure, but that can't be a thing. And I don't know whether it's a thing for Pineda too, but it seems so often that when we win, it's the same team. Now, granted, you get the formation right, and there's 2 different schools of thought about coaching. Some is real about squad rotation, and some are like, I'll put my best starting 11 out there all the time, and we just compete for it. I'm a little in between. Right. I like to have a starting lineup, in general, and keep that. But even in that context, you still got to feel like a little bit of rotation to keep people fresh. Yeah. And I'm not saying in this case, because again, with the Leagues Cup, right, we were all fresh. But Muyamba, who literally just came over from France, played in the Leagues Cup, played in all those matches. By the time he gets to Cincinnati, he looks like he was slowing down a little bit. And you feel like maybe that could have helped, but
yeah, I didn't think he was slowing down. I felt like he slowed down towards the end of the game.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
But not during the beginning. I felt like he still had it, but maybe his legs did get a little sluggish towards the end of that game.
Right.
So do we want to look at some of the goals in the Cincinnati game?
Yeah. So we start in the 11th minute, right? I mean, Silva, the new player, right? Zonde Silva. I mean, talk about a first touch on this goal. I mean, there's a ball served all the way across the field, and he brings it down like with the most delicate, amazing first touch.
Yeah.
Long distance.
This is actually we are gonna go to the first opportunity here. I think this is worth reviewing.
Oh, you want to look at the Almada free kick first?
Let's look at the Almada free kick first, because this was early on in the game, 7:43.
All right.
And you and I were in the stands. We're like, man, I was like, man, that's far away, and I know he can do it from there, but that looks like even further than what we've
You
ever
said play, and I said play it to to somebody as a play a ball in, and I said hell no, shoot, because it's freaking.
And I gave you the nod. I said, you're right, you're right.
All right.
And here's what we see here, and go ahead and play it, but. In the stadium, I just thought it whizzed by the post by like a foot or so.
Nope.
From where we were sitting. It wasn't until watching the replay tonight
Oh my
that
goodness.
this thing hits the top corner.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and this next angle really shows it. I mean, what a beautiful kick that was. I mean, he totally beat the keeper. I mean,
the keeper had no chance.
Even Messi would have some respect for that. So anyway. Now we can move on to the.
I don't have much to say about that except for he good.
He good. Yeah.
Are we here? Is this what we're playing?
And he can do that consistently. That ball was a good 30 yards out.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's pretty.
And to have the keeper be completely beat on that is impressive.
Yeah. So the next show here is the goal by Silva, or not by Silva, by Mascara, which I think is his first like professional goal, if I'm not mistaken, right, Dave?
It's probably the first goal of his life.
Yeah, I mean,
no, I'm just kidding out there, but it's certainly his first goal for Atlanta United.
No, it's like his first goal in 80 like professional matches.
Oh, really?
God,
He does not have a good track record, and
Oh.
he clearly should have put his laces through this ball like he did. But if he can't score in this scenario, Silva just does a beautiful job, as you'll see here, Carmen, bringing this down, turning it and crossing it.
Okay.
Under pressure too.
Under pressure,
what we got.
flicks off somebody's back heel. But pretty sweet first touch here from Silva as this comes down. Look at this. Whoop. Little turn. And then crosses it, dinks up over somebody, and then Mascara
Well
just
done.
smashes.
It was a little bit fortunate to fall for Mascara, but oh my God, is Zande Silva. What a
Yes.
first touch.
Yeah.
Oh, do they show that
That was
again? That
classy.
was lovely.
Yeah, what a first touch. Because
Yeah.
it comes right over the defender. This is
And
not.
to take it to the outside, no one would
Yeah.
expect that.
Yeah. And the guy was still on him, and so he had the ability to keep it real close and make the cross. So well done.
Magic.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're kind of cruising through the game here, and then
And you notice he crossed it with his weaker left foot.
Yeah.
No problem.
That's able to
I love to
happen.
see two-footed players. Please, good Lord, bring us only two-footed players.
So then, if you move forward to the big hump there in the
The
arc,
big hump.
yeah, right there. If you go back a little bit, so this is the goal by Acosta. And Dave, you want to go to your notes on what I had turned to you and said in the stadium here, as kind of you could see Moyamba was waning. The team was increasingly getting tired, and it felt like we were a little too late to make.
Well, I have to say, midway through the first half, our midfield starts to get being run over. Right, in this game, we were up 1-0, right? But midway through the first half, we starts to get run over, and we come out in the second half. Maybe we were okay for a few minutes in the second half, but by the time we get to 55th minute, 10 minutes into the second half, I have in my notes we're getting run over again. And the interesting thing about that is that, and we're going to get to it in a minute on the tactical board, but when we were talking about Seattle and Nashville with our two amazing wins coming out of Leagues Cup, right? Everybody's saying, oh, it's a change. Everything changed, right? And it's Muyumba and Josetu, right? And we're, fixed. We have all the attacking power and Zande Silva and Saba coming off the bench and blah, blah, blah. And, we're fine in midfield. We fixed it because we got Muyumba. And I was saying that, it looks to me like Muyumba's an all-action guy. And it looked to me, I couldn't understand why in Seattle, Nashville didn't really overrun us in midfield. And I don't really know the answer to that. Maybe Muyumba was so active, he kind of compensated for it. But I felt like it was coming. In the last podcast that we talked about it, I said, to me, it's not solid in the midfield. We're going to get run over in the midfield. And sure enough, Cincinnati comes in and they were running over us in the midfield.
Yeah.
Right. Remember in the last podcast, I talked about how in the Seattle game, one of their players dribbled 40 yards straight up the middle of the field. Nobody even came to challenge. He was dribbled 40 yards straight up the middle. Right. And I'll talk in a minute about how that happens. But, in this game, it looked like it was coming. We were talking to each other. We're like, we're about to give up a goal. And before you show this clip, I want to say 72nd minute in my notes, I have Dobbs turns to me and says, the defensive sub is going to be too late. right? We need the defensive sub now, and it's going to be too late.
73rd minute. 73rd minute.
All right. 75th minute or 74th minute, they score. And right after they score in the dead ball off the goal, then we sub in the defensive sub, right?
Now,
So
the other thing I want to say, though, is I agree we started to get a little run over in the midfield, but I feel like the next two goals were other issues that we're about to point out here that are about marking your man.
Well, the interesting thing, I just want to say one thing more about that sub is so it ends up being Sejdic for Zande Silva, right, for the defensive sub. So now obviously that's a midfield for a forward, so it makes us more defensive. But Sejdic is not exactly bringing in the best defender, and you had a super defender on the bench in the midfield in Sosa.
Sosa?
No, he didn't bring him in. So I was like, anyway, so now you want me, or you can talk about what went wrong on this goal?
Go ahead here. Yeah, you can go ahead and talk about Josetu and his positioning here. So you can watch him. He's about 35 yards out in the center of the field.
So where we have the clip frozen now, Josetu is right in the smack in the middle of the field, about 10 yards out from our box, right outside, right in the middle outside of the circle. The semicircle at the top of the box, right? And this is what's happening. So we said it against Nashville, right? So Josetu in the Nashville game did an absolutely brilliant job, right? And we talked about this, that his job was Hani Mukhtar always drops in deep. And his job was literally to wait for Hani Mukhtar to come out of the forward back into him and get on him. And he did. That's what he did. And I said, defensively, if Josetu is going to shine, he needs a very strict role like that. Right, because I don't think he's very good one-on-one, and I don't think he reads the game that well, and he's not that active. Right, okay. So that doesn't really make for a great defensive midfielder. Mm-hmm. And so in this game and in the subsequent games, that we've had, Josetu every single time every time we lose the ball, he goes right back to the central back pair. Right, so in this case, it was Robinson and Abram. And he stands right in front of them. So you can see that's where he's coming from. He actually was so deep in front of them. He stepped up a couple of steps. But if you watch on this clip, look what he does.
Yeah. So the ball, I think, comes out wide to the right here. And watch again. Josetu kind of
he's going
backing in.
And now he does a little boogie step. Boogie step.
Oh. Ooh.
And if you notice Acosta, because of that, even though Muyamba and Josetu are back on that play, both, Acosta runs right in between the two of them, and nobody even comes close to picking him up, right? He goes right in between the two, right?
Yeah.
And you're positive that's not that was Almada doing the boogie, by the way.
Was it?
Yeah. I think we're wrong on that.
No, it's Josetu.
Okay.
It's Josetu 20.
Yeah. Okay.
Come on now.
Sorry. All right.
Almada was the one who actually was with the field and gave up the previous play. But anyway, we're going to talk about a minute on the tactical board about what happens when you pair Josetu with Muyamba with just the two of them in the midfield. Right? And I said Cincinnati had basically three in the midfield. So
the final goal here is what. Like, if we're going to be, Pineda literally should be listening to the podcast at this point. I seriously, because I would really encourage you, if you guys are listening to this just on the audio, find the time to go look at this. We've been talking about our fullbacks pinching in and that being a coach thing or a thing that's not being coached out. Out of all the times we've talked about this, Carmen, how many times do you think we've spoken about the fullbacks pinching in on this podcast?
Oh gosh, a ton.
Yeah, it's like,
and we've seen goals because people
wait till you see this example here in the final.
You're gonna lose your mind.
Am I gonna lose my mind?
You're gonna lose your mind.
Let's see.
So let's ready? Yeah, go ahead and play it, right? And we'll tell you to pause. So
Guzan sends it out. Now pause it here for a second. Right. So right now, Lennon, who is playing right back, he's literally almost on the touchline.
He's like 2 feet from the touchline.
Right. And he's back, right? He's not up the field. He's way further back. He's way out wide. So he was there basically to try to open it up and maybe get a ball from Guzan. Right. Mm-hmm. And Almada does a really bad job of fighting for this ball. But anyway, he loses the ball, almost at midfield. So it shouldn't be that big of a problem. Nevertheless, just watch what Lennon does. And then maybe, Carmen, you can describe it. Having not seen it, you can describe it to the people.
I'm frightened. Okay.
Yeah. Amada loses, doesn't fight back for it at all.
Comes in, comes
Ah,
further
ah,
in, and
oh,
it was a wide over.
Oh, golly. So yeah, so knowing there's a guy out there because he was just out there, he basically ran in to guard a person, even though we had how many people already
Yeah, there's
All
there?
the backs were
All
back.
of
Everybody
everybody's-
was back. So we got
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, and left that guy completely wide open who crossed it, and that guy.
He
was
comes in and then comes in again, right? He's like, he came in far and then he was like, it's not far enough. I better keep coming, right? Even though he got further away from him and he's nowhere close.
Like, who is he even guarding? Like, that's
Yeah,
what,
no,
like,
nobody.
like,
Nobody. Yeah, really go back and watch this. It's,
Sorry.
Watch it again.
Sorry, guys. I gotta watch it one
It's
more time.
absolutely stunning.
Okay, so he's all the way. Okay.
We'll let the ball cycle out wide here. Okay. And as it goes here, hit pause.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Look where he is right now and where he came from. He was standing on the sideline. All he had to do is just mark his guy, right?
If he stayed out there, he had the guy.
Right.
Look, there's a guy right in front of him, correct? That's marking no one. So why does he need to be there?
It's got to be coached, right? You
It's-
cannot tell me that he did that just naturally, because naturally, if you're just terrible, whatever, you're looking for a guy and you go try to get the ball and you ignore it, whatever.
Right.
He just moves in and moves in again.
It's so it's almost like basketball. I don't know if y'all play basketball, where they always say go to the basket
Yeah.
first, guard the basket.
This is
and
like
then go out.
allowing somebody to, give somebody a free alley oop from outside the three.
Well, I actually think that what this is from basketball. So Carmen being a big Duke basketball fan, having gone to Duke,
or football
Right.
fan this week.
That's right.
one of the things that they say, if you're the guard on the wing, don't leave the shooter, right? So if the
Right.
point guard penetrates, right, the classic thing you do is you come in to help, and then all he does is kick it out to the guy who's, to the JJ Reddicks of the world, and he's never gonna miss, right? And this is what's happening here, right? Don't leave the shooter. In this case, it's the crosser, right?
Yeah.
Don't leave the crosser. If you're the outside back, you're responsible for the guy out there who's going to serve the cross. Don't leave him. I'm like, even to the point where if we get beat straight through the middle, so be it. If they can go through Miles Robinson and Abram and Muyamba and Huzetu, who are all there, like,
Yeah.
they deserve a goal. But they don't need
Oh,
the one guy who doesn't need help defensively on our
Yeah.
team is
Miles Robinson.
Miles
Robinson.
Robinson. So why is he going to hold his hand and leave a guy wide open?
Yeah. I don't
Because
know.
once you do that, now you're relying on everybody to be awesome at marking their guy,
Yeah.
right? And Wiley's trying to scramble back off his guy to take Vasquez, and he can't get there, and it's a
Okay.
tap in.
All right.
No, man.
So we're done with the replay here, but that was painful to watch. If you can set up the tactical board for Dave and not have him go fumbling around. then we're gonna switch to tactical
Let's see if
board.
I can do it, guys. It's been a minute. Oh crap! Now I
Yeah.
can't. What's
Just-
happening?
Yeah, click that and then go to the top.
Share this tab instead. Right?
There we go. Yeah, I
Woo, I'm magic.
think we're
Let me
good to
just
go.
make sure we're good. And
No.
add scene.
Yeah, move it over. And now we're on tactical board. And, oh, hold
Okay.
on.
Oh.
Switch Dave back to the tactical board on the tab so he doesn't have to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
All right. Still don't have it totally smooth,
No,
but
blame it on Fiji.
yes.
I'll be saying that for the rest of the year.
Blame it on
Blame
Fiji.
it on the rain.
All right. So Dave, I don't know if this
If
is
there wasn't awkwardness during the switch, it wouldn't be the ATL on fire. So,
yeah.
That's true.
I mean, come on, people.
So describe the scene here. We got our standard starting lineup here, or
Yes. This is the standard. Well, actually, it was Mascara. So if we want to be honest, for this first game, it was Mascara instead of Saba. But that was their starting lineup during the run in which we beat Seattle and we beat Nashville, and then we lost to Cincinnati.
Yep.
So first of all, for those of you who listen to the podcast a lot, we have some issues with Pineda, but I'm going to say we did seem to fix one thing. And the thing that we seemed to fix was the airplanes.
Yeah.
Okay. In two ways, actually. There are two really interesting ways that we fixed it. So first of all, what was happening prior is when we would start to come out of the back a little bit and move them up the field a little bit, what would happen is Lennon would go here and Wiley would go here. That was the classic airplanes, right? And what was happening is, as we talked about earlier, right, that was supposed to be overloaded. We'll just put a magical defender out here. But the problem was they're just so tight. All Lennon was doing was crowding Araujo's space. Right. So he's fixed it in two ways. So first of all, if Lennon goes forward, Miles is coming a little bit further out. Abram is coming in here, and Wiley's staying at home.
Yeah.
So we no longer have just two in the back. We have three always. So that already makes us a lot less vulnerable and might be the reason why we did get two shutouts. Although I still think that we're vulnerable to some weak soft goals because we haven't, as we'll talk about in a second, we haven't fixed the center midfield. Anyway, the other thing that happened that was so good is that so Mosquera is actually our first non-inverted winger. He's a right-footed. He was playing on the touchline, like way out here. He had Lennon underlapping here.
Yeah.
And when Lennon comes in here and as an underlap, now it's actually the 2v1 that he wanted the whole time, right?
Yeah.
Instead of, as I was saying before, it was Araujo was here and Lennon was here. There's no space, right? But Lennon underlapping means that Mosquera was hugging the touchline, and that was really working. Same thing, even when Lennon was back, Silva, as a right-footed inverted winger, is coming in here a lot and is good in those spaces, right? Whereas Araujo was not good in those spaces, but he's good in that spaces. And then Wiley is free to go here. And again, we're getting our 2v1. So, yay. We're getting a little bit overloaded. There's a little better spacing when we have our single airplane and we have three in the back, right? So this is what we've tended to look like. So that's already a big improvement. Okay. Remind me when we finish or what you want to do it right now. We can talk about it right now. So I assumed after all this, we finally had now Lennon. Let's go back to it being Lennon because I want to talk about it more on Lennon's side, right? I finally thought, okay, obviously the reason I was like, why did he fix it and have Lennon go underneath? Because Lennon, as Pineda will always tell you, he's the biggest goal chance creator in all of MLS because he crosses the ball from out wide, right? And he's really good at servicing the ball. So now why have him go underneath if that's the case, right?
Because Mosquera certainly can't deliver a ball.
And Mosquera cannot deliver a ball, so you'd actually like it sort of to be the opposite. But so I assume the only possible explanation for this had to be that Araujo was inverted as a left footer, so he was coming inside, and Lennon was out here. And now that it's not uninverted, it's Mosquera on the touchline. He asked Lennon to come inside, and that all made sense to me until
Saba
came in the game against Dallas. So Saba's left-footed, so he's Araujo. So we would assume he's going to come inside where he's comfortable, and Lennon now would go back to here. Do you want to know what happened?
Do tell.
What happened?
Saba stayed here. Lennon came underneath again, and suddenly we're crowding the space again.
Another Araujo situation.
Yeah. What is the possible explanation?
Can't help you.
We always were assuming that he loved Lennon, so Lennon has to go forward and he has to be wide because that's where he's good. He can cross the ball, right? So we were assuming that was the reason for the whole thing, right? And you were sacrificing Araujo, who loves to be out in space and run, for that. And so when Mosquera came in, it made sense because he wasn't inverted and he switched, but he kept it switched.
I think it'll work if Saba stays wide like Mosquera does, though, because I think Saba can beat people straight down the line and can cross it and he can come in and actually score the goal as we saw in the last game.
God help us if that's true, because Saba to me looks really good in tight spaces. He's really good. He's left-footed, but he also can use his right foot. He's really good under pressure. He can hold the ball. And it absolutely has to be him in here and Lennon overlapping out here, because Lennon, honestly, is useless underlapping. He's not that great in tight spaces. You lose his whole crossing ability. And how many times in the last two games have you seen Lennon put in a good ball?
But if we do that, then Saba has to be a little bit more of a drop back in case, Lennon gets caught up the field is all I would say there. Because the problem with that is like when it was Mascara, Lennon is the full duty of the fullback, and Mascara is the natural right person to just go down the line and terrorize people with his speed. In this situation with Saba, you're counting on Lennon's speed and athleticism to tire people out, which is fine to your point. And now you're leveraging Saba's skill sets to terrorize people on the inside.
Yeah.
But if Lennon is this far up, like 3 back is great. Don't get me wrong, but somebody needs to be a little bit more accountable to kind of help make it 4 more often. How do you see that unfolding then?
Honestly, I'm going to disagree with you. I got no problem with us having 3 in the back, especially if we have a defensive midfielder, fairly doing a good job here. If we have this and they're good, right? Because your key is when you lose the ball, right? So when the ball turns over here, the key to all of soccer is taking away the first option, right? So we'll put number 2 as his teammate. So number 2 is here. So as long as when they're trying to play out of the back here, Miles is actually close enough to here, you're fine.
You're pressing out of the back in this case.
Yeah.
Okay.
You just can't be caught where you have so few players that you can't match up, because then what happens? We get all this pressure. It looks like this. Right now, Miles is no way going to get out there, and all the pressure in the world here doesn't do you any good because they have the wide open player.
Yeah.
Right.
Agreed.
This is what happened to my daughter's team on the weekend. Nobody was pressuring this, and they just kept killing us with the split ball. Anyway, okay. So I'm giving him credit and saying, look, he fixed the airplanes because we don't have them both. We no longer have airplanes. We have airplane. Yeah, which is better, way better, and we don't need airplanes because on the weak side, if Lennon has the ball up here and they're going 2v1, we do not need Wiley here. We need him back.
Yeah, because Saba and Silva are obviously capable of attacking other players, just like Wiley and Lennon can. But now you're adding another dynamic. If only one of them is flying.
Because this player, if Wiley is forward here, it doesn't overload anything. I mean, it does, but the chances of having this is not so great.
So Josetu and Moyamba seem to be the preferred center mids behind behind Almada. You were talking, I don't know if it was earlier in the podcast or before the podcast, about Josetu seems to perform a little bit better when he's assigned a player, like we saw with Mukhtar. He was kind of able to shut him down. That was his job, obviously, to shadow him the entire game. But when you give him the freedom to roam and read the game, he does a really poor job getting caught in the middle of nowhere. How would Sosa coming in change that? Can you explain that to the listeners?
Well, so the thing that was killing me here is so Pineda is calling this a double pivot, right? So in a double pivot, what happens is one guy is a little bit further, Muyamba's here, and Josetu sits in for him. Or at times, Josetu goes here and Muyamba sits in for him, right? That's a double pivot, right?
And we're not seeing that in terms of evidence.
No. So first of all, Josetu doesn't go forward. It's just Muyamba, right? So if anything, it's a single pivot.
All action. it's all action Muyamba, which I love.
Yeah, which is fine, right? Yeah. But here's the thing, Muyamba, like in the first, I pointed out last podcast, in the first 2 minutes of the Seattle game, Muyamba shows up at the back post here. Okay. Right. So that is not something that screams defensive midfielder. Right. And that's fine if he's all action or whatever. But the other thing that happens is, as soon as we lose the ball, Josetu comes and he goes to really protect the back 4. Right. So in the Seattle and Nashville games, we had a lot of Muyamba doing this, and we have Josetu retreating immediately here. And this is what happens.
Yeah.
Right. So in the Seattle game, they did this. They literally, there was one time we got a counter. We didn't get our backs up that far. These guys were over here. They turned the ball over badly. They played it here, something like this. And this guy took the ball and dribbled 40 yards almost to here as everybody was running forward and backing up. Right. And nobody even addressed him. He went 40 yards basically from here to here without anybody even coming close to addressing him or tackling or anything. And I was like, yeah. right? Like, how can somebody run straight up the middle? But the bottom line is that Josetu is dropping right in front of the backs, and Muyamba is doing this all action stuff. He often makes these runs or whatever. And there is a huge, huge gap, right? I mean, it's so obvious. And to me, what was so crazy is after the Cincinnati game, De La Torre, right? As the game wore on, it got worse and worse, right? We were starting on the front foot. In the middle of the first half, as I pointed out, they were really running. We got it maybe under control after halftime for 10 minutes, and then it was all Cincinnati, and the whole midfield was gone. And so De La Torre, who was coaching for Pineda, after the game, he said, I thought we started dribbling too much, and I couldn't understand why the game became so transitional. Basically, it was up and down and up and down. This is why Coach De La Torre, the game became so transitional, because we have nobody in midfield. Nobody, right? Josetu is back, but he's so far back, he's not covering anybody. And Muyamba's making these runs forward, and there is a 30-yard gap. When's the last time you saw a Premier League team that had a 30 or 35-yard gap in the center of the pitch? It happens. When does it happen?
It happens late in games when the game kind of breaks away into desperation.
When you have to go for it.
You have to go for it. Whereas it was, I've always said, when you're watching MLS, when it's the 15-minute and it's an accordion, that's like, how is this accordion? Although, some of the games I've been watching lately, the quality soccer, maybe it's the Miami Messi effect. Seems like it's getting better. But
even if Josetu was actually not right in front of him, which he always is, even if he was out in here, right, this would happen a lot. And he just cannot handle this to make the decisions.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very hard to do, but there's a few people who can. Sosa makes great decisions on those plays. Yeah. But he, the number one thing, if you're a defensive midfielder and you get in a 2v1, as a coach, what do I tell people, right, is don't worry about the 2v1. Wherever they play the ball, you've got to get on his back and not let him make this one.
Right.
Right? Because once he makes this one, we're in real trouble.
When's the last time we've seen Sosa?
I was just about to
ask the Sosa started against Dallas.
Oh, he did. Okay.
Well, it was crazy.
Because I missed that game. I was in a place with no internet, so I only watched the highlights.
So after all of this, right, we lose a game, right? and the Pineda thing comes in. So Muyamba goes to the bench, right? And so here, we'll move it. Yeah. So Josetu went to the bench and was replaced by Sosa. And it wasn't even Muyamba. Muyamba went to the bench too. And it was Sidic. This was suddenly our center midfield. Why?
What? Don't you think don't you think that Pineda's going to claim rotation?
Sure. I mean, I think he says, Dallas is a weaker team and we can go with our weaker midfield. I think that's what he would think, is this is our weaker midfield. But again, it strikes me as having very limited creativity. We always have to have a defensive midfielder who he thinks is Josetu is the best one, who is not. And then Sosa can come in for him, but Sosa can never play with another defensive midfielder. Oh, no. That can never happen, because you have to have one of these and one of these and one of these. Yeah. And in our team, you don't. As we've talked about, when you now have Silva, Almada, Gigi, and Saba, you got plenty of attacking. Just have some people to recycle the ball.
Yeah.
You actually don't really even need Muyamba charging all over the place. It helps sometimes and it's good. But if you're going to have Muyamba charging all over the field, first of all, it has got to be Sosa behind him.
Yeah.
Right? Because he's actually a defensive midfield.
But even I love the all action Muyamba. But you're saying, it's Sosa, he could be a little more measured in conserving his energy and just taking those moments with the skill set that he's got to take advantage of what he can bring, which is a lot.
Yeah.
I agree.
So wait, what does Pineda think do we know this? What Josetu brings over Sosa, or what Sosa is missing? We have no idea. Or it's just what we come back to.
He doesn't like Sosa.
Yeah, he does not like Sosa.
And you know why? To be honest with you, you know why I think he doesn't like Sosa? It's amazing. I see this, watching a lot of youth soccer games. The coaches are constantly screaming at this person. There's a person on every team who the coaches scream at, and they shouldn't. So there's a person who actually reads the game fairly well, works pretty hard, ends up in good spots, right? Well, so other people are not doing that and are not marking whatever. And they're the ones who always look like they get beat because they're always over by the danger. So the coach starts screaming at them. And so for example, if this is Sosa here, he's always over with the guy and there's 2v1. And what will happen is, let's say for a while it was Sadich, right? Where did Sadich go? Sadich went here. And so Sadich will be caught in no man's land, or he's ball watching and the guy runs right by him. Does he ever yell at Sadich? No, because he's watching the ball and he's seeing Sosa come over to get his guy and get beat diving in right here. This was actually Sadich's fault.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or Sosa, yeah, people will say, oh, he gets a yellow card or a red card or is too aggressive in that situation. I think that's the perception everybody watches in that moment.
Pineda likes to penalize people, which I think is really bad coaching. So that we noticed this the one time Parata made a mistake, right? He made a really bad mistake and he went to the bench and we haven't seen him back in the starting lineup ever. Abram finally got his shot, which to me, okay, if you think Abram's the better guy, play Abram, fine. But don't make it about when you make one mistake, you're gone.
It's like a terrible psychological confidence tactic as a coach. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so that's our midfield dilemma. And then the other thing, as we've already talked about, is this madness of pinching in. And I'll just point it out one more time. We saw it here in the clip, for those of you who couldn't see the clip. But Lennon was out here. Guzan plays the ball all the way up to, it was Almada who gets beat here, right? There's a guy, in here. And there's a guy out here. Lennon comes in. Right to here, and then he comes in again, and we had a guy for him, and he leaves this. What? Yeah. Why?
No, there's no earthly idea, and there was more defensive people back for Atlanta United.
So when I said that I thought that we haven't fixed everything, there's two things that I think caused us to give really soft goals. Well, actually, there were three things. We fixed one of them. So one thing that we were doing is we only had two back. We now have at least three back, so we fixed that. And that's probably why we're maybe slightly better defensively. But the other two things that we're doing are getting killed is one in the midfield. We don't have the right combination. We're not solid in the midfield. We're getting run over. That's still happening. And the second thing we continue to do is pinch in unnecessarily. So even when we do have players back, they still have wide open for the cross. And that's why you give up soft goals.
Agreed. Dave, give Carmen her seat back. We're going FC Dallas. Off the tactical board. That was good stuff. Tactical board. Oh, that pinching in from Lennon. That
even I could see that.
I mean, how brutal was that in that goal? People go back and watch it.
But here's the question, right? So they have access to, incredible footage, right? They do team, footage and whatever, blah, blah, blah. Right. My question is, do you think that Pineda or some assistant coach is watching that and saying, wait, why did you do that? I think the answer has to be no, because we haven't come close to changing that at all. Yeah. How do you watch that clip and not see what Lennon did as a problem?
Well, it's kind of scary in terms of how often that's happening, and none of the coaches are making it an issue.
Yeah.
All right. FC Dallas. We tie that game 2-2.
Yep.
Do we want to go to the any comments in the thing we need to answer?
So the starting lineup, obviously, he switches those two, and we touched on it briefly. Can I ask the question again? Why? Supposedly the thing that changed so much, when we came out of the break, when we beat the great win at Seattle on the road, we beat Nashville at home, right? Yeah. Cincinnati obviously don't do whatever, but we still played fairly well, you would think.
Yeah.
So why switch out both your center midfielders after that game?
Right. One of them, okay. Like if Moyama needs a rest, great.
I would have said, look, you're going on the road. And MLS is terrible on the road in general. And Pineda himself is atrocious record on the road. So I would have said, look, we're scoring goals for fun. These guys look amazing. The one thing I don't want to do is to get run over in the midfield. And so I would have played 2 defensive midfielders in the middle. So to me, if you look at who are our best 2 defensive players in the middle, I would say Sosa and Muyamba. So I would have dropped Josetu and played Sosa, right?
Yeah.
A fresh guy, a second defensive midfielder. I might even have gone to a third player in the midfield, right? Either by asking Saba to play in the midfield, which I think he's probably capable of, or bringing in Sadic.
I think Saba's an all-action type of guy too.
Yeah.
Man. I think he's very flexible in what he's capable of on the field.
So why not in this scenario? You could, or even you could have said, as we talked about, what the crazy part is, we have the wingers, right? On the road, the other thing you could have done is you said, all right, defensively, we're much more solidly when we go with 5 in the back, right? Why not have Abram and Miles Robinson and Parata, right? Play all of those guys, play the 2 true Wiley and Lennon as sort of the aggressive players, right? And now stick Sosa and Muyamba in the middle, protecting them.
Yeah.
Right. And then you have in front of them, you have, basically 2 players playing off of Gigi, right? So it's Almada and either Xande Silva or Saba, one of the 2, playing just behind Gigi.
Yeah.
And the width in that system comes from the 2 outside backs. They can now go bombing as airplanes because you're playing 3 always in the back.
So not the best transition, but FC Dallas, a 2-2 tie. Again, I was unable to watch the game. No internet where I was, but I did watch the highlights. Some good goals from Atlanta United.
It's impressive you went to a place where there's no internet. I like it. That's what's called Labor Day weekend, people.
Off the grid.
Off the grid. But I don't know if you want to go to the highlights on YouTube. My big frustration.
Yeah, so can I ask you, what did you think of the push on Robinson? Was it a foul?
Absolutely. I mean, it has to be. The fact that a professional referee who gives that 1,000 times out of 1,000 times decided that he was going to be bigger than the game because he felt like it was soft. And look, it was soft.
Yep.
It was soft. Yep. But it doesn't matter. It's a penalty. Or not a penalty, it's a foul.
Yeah.
It's a foul. I mean, any professional referee has to give that as a foul. Let's watch this. I mean, okay, go ahead and hit the ball here. So they're driving down the right side here. Miles steps onto the guy who's going down to the corner box, shields it, gets pushed in the back. Clearly, gets pushed in the back twice. Bumped twice.
And you can actually see it on Ferreira's body language, right? So Ferreira, he stops for a second. He's like, oh, you're going to let me keep playing?
Let's see. They show it again, or do you rewind
look. There's 2 body languages you should watch. Ferreira stopped.
Elbow right in the back there. I mean,
he knows he fouls him.
He knows he fouls him.
I mean, all 4 of us do it, but
he stopped, there.
And throws him to the ground, basically.
Yeah, that's
it's insane. It's insane.
Yeah, the referees.
The referee just basically said, "Here's a goal."
Yeah.
No worries. Here's a goal. I'm gonna be the one who says what the score line is. This is my game, not the player's game.
So I agree with you. One thing you'll say is that Robinson didn't have to go down. He's not getting pushed over by Ferreira. He went down to make the situation easier, right? So instead of having to try to kick it out for a touch for a corner or try to clear it from there, he's like, "Oh, I'll take the foul," right?
Anytime there's an elbow in the back here, any professional referee has to call it.
Yeah, Dave. I agree. It's a foul.
It's
so I think he went.
And I'm not like you know me, I'm not an Atlanta United homer.
Yeah.
I'm just calling it like this is what a professional soccer referee needs to do.
I couldn't agree more.
And come on. I mean, that is so JV. It's not even funny.
Yeah, it's a crazy way to give up a goal.
It's a crazy way to give up a goal. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. I'm off the fire.
I will say before we get on to the other goals, it's not on the clips, but in the 37th minute, Areola plays the ball to Ferreira, and Guzan thinks that he's not going to get there. And he literally falls over when Ferreira does get there because he misread it and he's not quick enough anymore, agile enough to recover. And it's a miracle that Ferreira didn't score. He hit the post. Right? I mean, it should have been a goal. Right? Absolutely should have been a goal. And that's foreshadowing, Mikey Dobbs. You know what foreshadowing is?
Yeah. Laying the foundation for what is to come.
So there might be something that happens in the second half that's similar.
All right. Well, here is the goal by George Giacomakis, which is
Let's see.
This
What's
is-
Gigi got going on.
this is all want is what this is,
Yeah.
Carmen. This guy's a machine when it comes down to
I love him so much.
yeah, he's
But this is where you don't have to get the tactics right because there's nothing good tactically about here. It's slow build up. We get it. Like Lennon could have crossed it there. He plays. There's nothing going on here. He just lofts it up and he just goes and gets it and wins it. That's just two good players.
probably
That
probably half the minutes of the other Golden Boot leaders, and he's only one goal behind, I think.
Something like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
he was tied at one point, I think.
Yeah.
During one of the
So,
games.
Boom.
But can I really get? I want on a shirt with him with his arms outstretched after he said, "Oh, I need it."
Little celebration. Football is life, coach.
Oh, do we need it? Where am I? Football is life. Which
Football.
one's that one? This
Just
one?
like back in Guadalajara. See? I do it, coach. Football is life.
Football is life. That's Gigi, man. Football is life. It just
love
just-
him.
it's like the coach is like, oh, you play this, you get to overload airplanes, and Gigi's like, no, you just loft it up there, and I go get it and go.
So the game's tied up at this point, 1-1, and we actually go ahead and get the lead goal on the road in Dallas here, right? So our boy Saba.
You think Saba could cut it in on his strong left foot and just put it right off the post?
it's possible? So yeah, beautiful little bring down, charges into the top corner of the 18. Oop, cuts in 3 players, and then boom, right into the side netting.
Can
Lovely
you
goal.
show it again, though? I just for those people who think that we don't actually watch the game and we're nuts. I want you to watch where Lennon
I
goes
knew
on
you
this
were going to
play.
say that. I knew
You know.
it. I'm going to have to. Okay.
So Lennon is in his right back position, and he goes underlap. That's what he was doing the whole time.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. Talk about not bringing the other players away from the guy who's got the ball. Like that is like soccer 101. Right
Now,
there.
at least he had the heart to keep going through, and that's
That-
what opened the space. But
that is true. He did at least drag him deep enough, which
if
helped.
that's 20 yards further out the field, he just runs off sides.
Yeah.
Right. Actually, he even ran offside
He
in the
did.
box almost. Right. But
Yeah, he did. To be fair, he did at least drag him deeper than he.
yeah, it
than
was a
he
good
did.
run in the end because he dragged him really
Yeah.
into the box. But I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't get it either. It's not over and over again. That's a little bit of luck right there. So, and then our friend Brad Guzan, who's our keeper going to be next year, Carmen?
Oh, I have no
Hopefully
idea.
not,
Because this next replay shows how
No.
desperately we're going to need
No.
another goalkeeper next year.
I love goalkeepers.
Caught in no man's land
and
here.
old people.
it's
just-
not even a good ball.
It's not even a good ball. Brad's like,
Oh dear.
he's big, he's bald, he's confused.
I mean, he doesn't even come close to getting to that ball.
No.
Yeah, that was bad. That was real bad. That was
It is. It's almost as if, and I've had this happen. It's like your brain thinks you're 22,
yep.
Mhm.
but your body isn't 22.
That's exactly what's going
That
on with
is
him all the time.
exactly what's happening
got
right
it.
there.
It's
Yeah.
sad because he was so good.
yeah.
But he's just not. I mean, it's not just his age; it's also the Achilles. I think
Yeah.
and all the
It's-
little
it's
injuries
all of
they
that.
add
I
up.
feel what Brad's feeling.
I'm with
By
ya.
another 10 or so years. I get it. But that was painful to watch. Painful to watch. All right. You got a tactical board you're going to go back to here, Dave? What's going on?
We're thinking
Uh-oh.
we have it. There's an innovation that
This is an innovation.
Oh,
that we might
gosh.
be able to invite on a guest, and I was
Okay.
thinking
Oh dear.
we
Yeah.
might.
Here
I
we
love
go.
it. We're going to try to invite
Let's
a
see
guest.
what Elliot says about that. Elliot,
Okay.
We're going to try to
Watch
bring
for
Elliot
it.
on. All right. I don't know. We're experimenting with
Okay.
trying to bring on a live guest for the first time.
technology.
Yeah, so the link in the chat, there's probably something explaining this already,
You
but
gotta
the
hit the-
link I'm
gotta hit-
putting
Yeah.
in the chat, hopefully after I hit this button here.
Oh, is it not letting you put it in?
No, it should. It's just
Hit it again.
slow. Hold on. I'm
Hit
just,
it again.
There we go.
Oh,
there it is.
Yeah.
I think if y'all click it, you might be able to be on camera and I can let you in.
Yes.
Surely that's not true, Carmen.
That's
As a producer, you can bring guests on the podcast. What?
That's what the software we're paying for should
I don't
be able
believe
to
it.
do.
Oh,
mean,
my
I don't believe it.
Goodness, this is
I
what
don't
y'all
believe
do
it.
to me as soon as I get back from Fiji.
Yeah, so there should be something that pops up in the bottom left with
No, this is what you brought back from Fiji. You brought the ability to bring on guests from remote locations.
So to fill the void, I just want to say that watching Inter Miami sadly has become a little bit of a passion project for me too.
Oh.
I mean, watching Messi's kind of must see TV these
Sure.
days. I mean, did you watch his last game?
Yeah.
Yeah, he might be good. that guy.
What? No.
I mean, there's 2 assists.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how about that one to Jordi Alba where he just slows it down in the midfield and then just slices it right down the left side? It was like, it was a thing of beauty. And then, the thing that, LAFC didn't do, which was, I forget the guy's name, Boyunga or something like that. Didn't play it out to Carlos Vela.
Yeah.
And Messi showed him how to do it on the flip side.
Here's how you do it.
Here's how you do it. You go down, you slow it down, and you just lay it off real easy when somebody.
No, coach, you go like this,
Yeah.
go. So here's the thing. So we had a bet, Mikey Dobbs. I'll
Okay.
remind you of. So we had a bet. Who was going to get farther, Miami or Atlanta? And I said Atlanta because I didn't think Miami's going to make the playoffs. And I'm sticking to it. I still don't think Miami's making the playoffs. It is so far to go.
I love your bait. I love your bait. It's so far off is what you're saying. Okay, God, I love this is such a good bet, Dave, that you're suckering me. This is Dave suckering me in to a bet. All right. So do we have Elliot that's about to
Okay, let's
show
see
up?
what we can do, people. Let's see.
Is Elliot going to be on?
Yeah, it could
No.
be.
His camera's off though.
Yeah, camera.
Camera's off. Can you click his camera on, or does he have to do that?
I'm not good.
Oh,
look at
no.
that! It's Elliot.
No camera.
Hello, Elliot. Welcome to the podcast.
So we're just talking a little bit about how amazing Lionel Messi has been since he entered the league with Leagues Cup, obviously, but just in his last game, again, 2 beautiful assists. I don't know. Have you been watching a lot of the Miami games?
Yeah. So Miami, right? So here's the thing about Miami, and here's the bet, Mikey Dobbs, right? Because so Miami is clearly one of the top 2 teams in all of MLS. There's no doubt about it with Messi.
Yeah.
But they're so far behind, right? Because they were in last place. And you got to keep in mind, so Messi came off of Europe. He had a little bit of break. Then, hold on. Let me set it up because we can ask Elliot his opinion too. So right now he's on international duty in Argentina, right? He comes back. He's got to go to Atlanta. For those of you going to see the Messi show on September 16th, people are saying he might not play because of the turf. I think that's BS. I think that's not a problem. It's possible that Tata doesn't start him because he's been on international duty. That's also possible.
That's true.
But in any case, you expect him to play there. They still have the U.S. Open Cup final, which is at the end of September, to squeeze in there as a high-profile event. He's got to start that match,
Sure,
because they have to win the trophy.
That's even more important.
Right?
Than MLS.
And so to me, I don't think he's going to play all of the matches. Certainly he's not going to start them all. And on top of that, do you think, he's going to tire a little bit?
No.
Okay.
I also think that he is going to play in almost every single game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know there's this rumor they're going to arrest him. Like, I think, there's going to be games where we're going to see like maybe 25 minutes of him.
Yeah.
But
Like maybe Atlanta.
Yeah. I think there's a good
But
chance.
here's the thing. So Atlanta is a good team at home.
Yeah.
And we're way above them in the playoff picture, right? So here's the other question. Do you think Miami coming off the break, let's say Tata chooses to keep him on the bench and bring him in, let's say 70th minute. Do you think Atlanta can beat a Miami without Messi?
I don't. Not at home. Not with the. I mean, I think we're going to be up for that game. I think we got embarrassed last game we played them in the League's Cup.
So you're saying Atlanta's going to win or Miami's going to win?
I don't know that we will win. I don't think we'll lose.
Okay.
And
that's the thing. If they get ties, that's not good enough for them, right?
Exactly.
They've got to win.
Which is why I think we'll see Messi in Atlanta. The game is too big. I mean, they're trying to make a run at everything, and Messi is trying to do the unthinkable. I think that the hype around Messi is so big that it's clear from the narrative too. Like Messi decides whether Messi plays or not. Messi always wants to play. Tata even said that, Dave. He's like, I don't decide whether Messi plays.
Yeah, but Tata
he did
say to him, look, this is what I think we should be doing.
Tongue in cheek, a little of that for the media. But at the end of the day, yeah, if Messi's like, look, there's no way I'm going to go into Atlanta United against kind of an Argentinian-rich team that you came from and not try to show up the best fans in MLS. Like he knows.
Take on my boy Almada.
And take on my boy Almada.
Who's still the king of Argentina.
There's too much narrative in Atlanta United on September 16th not to see him for at least 30 minutes. That is my take.
I think he's going to play for 30 minutes, assuming he doesn't get hurt on international duty.
But yeah, I think that there's a good chance that we'll see him starting on the bench. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's possible. And then the question is, if that's the case, can Atlanta get it done? So if you look at Miami, right, to get into 9th place. So the forgiving thing about Miami this year is that 9 teams are making the playoffs.
Yeah.
Right. So to get into the 1-game playoff, which is all they need is a chance, right? They have to get to 9th place. Traditionally, it's taken about 42 points to get to 9th place. That requires them to win 5 games. I think get some 15, and they need like 2 more after that. So that would be 7. They got to win at least 5 and 2 ties. Out of, I think they have 9 remaining or 8 remaining. They can lose 1, 2. If it's 42 right now, the East has been really up, so it could take 43 or 44 to get there.
They're 8 points off right now from being in the playoffs. And
but you can't say just 8 points off because there's all the teams in between.
2 or 3 games in hand on many of the teams that.
So that's why I say the better way to look at it now is what has historically it's taken to get into the 9th position. And I said it's typically taken about 42 points. So if you look at them right now, right, they have 27 points.
Yeah.
Right. So they need, as I said, 15. Right. So, and how many games have they played? Can you go back down?
We got points. They have 25 points.
27. Oh, 25 points.
Yep. These are goals.
I see. So 25. So to get to 42, they need 17, and they have played 25, so they have 9 left. So yeah, they need 17, which would be 5 wins and 2 ties at least. I think it could take more than that. I think it could be 43 maybe to get to 9th this year, or even 44. Right?
Can I ask you a question, though, Dave?
Yeah.
How many games have Miami lost since Messi came on?
None, but they've tied now. Okay. And if they keep getting ties, once you get more than like 3 or 4 ties, they're done. Yeah, but they got to get wins.
The first tie they had, Messi came on in the 89th minute. Let's be clear on that. So pretty much every game Messi has started, they win. Except there may have been one tie.
I thought he just started one game the other day. Not this last game, the previous game where they got a tie.
Yeah. Trust me, it wasn't his fault. I went back to watch the replay.
I know it's not his fault. But
nothing is his fault.
I expect him to slightly tail off a little bit. It's a lot.
Well, let's get Elliot's opinion. Do you think, Elliot, that Inter Miami is going to make the playoffs? Yes or no?
Yeah. It's a safe bet.
If they have Messi, they will. I'm kind of with him here. Okay. I feel like some stuff's also, I always like to bet
in the stars
against the odds, right? It is kind of in the stars.
Wait. What was the bet that y'all were bet? What was?
We haven't made it yet.
Oh, you haven't made it yet. Okay.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure don't forget.
No, we did make the bet.
Dave is obviously leading up to, is Inter Miami going to make the playoffs or not? And if they don't, what is Mikey Dobbs buying Dave?
Well, we
That's
didn't
part-
say what it was for. Yeah, but the bet was that Miami or Atlanta goes further in the playoffs, and I said it was clearly Atlanta because, Messi and Inter isn't even going to make the playoffs. I still don't think they're going to make the playoffs.
Okay.
So I think I'm fine with that as the bet.
Because if they make the playoffs, they're clearly getting further than Atlanta, don't you think?
Yeah.
Right.
You would think so.
Okay.
Now, granted, if they make the playoffs, it's going to be like 9th place. That is a long road because they're going to be on the road. I still think that even if they make the playoffs, they're not winning MLS Cup because in a one-off game on the road, they're going to have a moment. Like if you look at the Nashville game in the final of the Leagues Cup, which they won right on penalties, right? They were up early, but then Nashville got some momentum, whatever. I think against the top teams of Cincinnati and Nashville, maybe a Philadelphia, that they're only good enough on the road to get like a tie. And one of these days they're going to lose a PK shootout. I just think they're not going to win the playoffs, even if they get in.
Okay.
But I do think that if they get in, they're going further than Atlanta.
Look, are the statistics with you? Yeah. Are the stars with you? No.
The other thing I keep pointing out is they got another trophy to play for. They got the U.S. Cup, which takes a lot out of you. It's a one-off final, right? And they're going to win that, and they're going to get a second trophy. And it's also going to make them a little bit, fat and happy because they got to celebrate that. They got 2 trophies. I mean, if you're a Miami fan, Messi comes, you haven't even been like over 500, and now you've got 2 trophies.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Shocking, right? I mean, and Leagues Cup is a legit trophy, right? Even if you say U.S. Open Cup, whatever, which I still think U.S. Open is a legit trophy, but
yeah. I mean, Messi's making it more legitimate than it ever has.
Yeah.
It's a 108-year-old tournament at this point, something like that.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the U.S. Open Cup they've been playing for forever.
I did not know that. Okay.
108 years, I think.
Yeah.
So, and I think, you have to give a nod, and evidently like Garber and a lot of the people don't give it the respect maybe it deserves.
It's a different entity, so it's outside, so there's a tension, right? Because MLS doesn't necessarily have to make way for them at all, right? So there's a tension to it.
Got it.
And certainly with the new Apple contract, Apple's like, we don't care because we don't have this right. So that's part of it. So the one thing I wanted to talk about is we did this a little bit the last podcast, but I want to bring Carmen in on it is how do we feel about our predictions? So Mikey Dobbs, I will remind him, said he had predicted like 6 or 7, and he said that we were going to do better than that, like maybe 5. I think you said.
I said like
5. 4 or 5.
I said 4 or 5, but now I'm kind of saying 5.
You're on a high last podcast.
I originally said that we barely squeak in the playoffs at 9 or 8, and I said I'm maybe willing to concede we're going to get 7, but I don't think it's going to be much above that.
Ooh,
so, Dave, you think we're going to slip a spot? I think we're going to improve a spot. Is kind of where we are right now.
I mean, the road is just so hard. We still have to play Miami at home.
Yeah.
We have to play Cincinnati on the road. We have to play Philadelphia Union, I believe, is on the road. Is that on the road?
What do we got?
The only game that we have this week left is DC United, and Montreal is a game. But Columbus is the best team in the MLS right now. We have to play them on the road, right? We have to play Miami. No, we play Columbus at home. Sorry. We play Miami and Columbus at home. We play Philadelphia on the road. We play Cincinnati on the road. I don't see us going and winning either of those games. I'm not convinced that we're going to beat Columbus at home.
Okay. Yeah. So we've got DC United. We should beat on the road. Yeah.
You would think.
Yeah. Montreal, we should beat at home.
At home.
Philadelphia, yeah, that's tough. Columbus, even at home, I think worst case scenario, tie. And then I don't know, is there some revenge on the road against Cincinnati, Dave? There's always
normally I would say absolutely yes. With our team, you would say we're pissed off. We should be going to Cincinnati to win.
Yeah.
I just don't think Pineda can do that. He never wins those big matches. Never.
Okay.
Is it possible Cincinnati will have locked something in and not play all their people?
That is possible because they will have already clinched the Supporters Shield and the #1 seed. That's actually an interesting
Maybe.
observation.
look
Maybe.
Look at Carmen with that big
That's an interesting point
Duke brain working there.
because that's the last game of the year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
Okay. That's interesting. Maybe we get some.
Let's see. Elliot, where do you think we're going to finish?
Okay.
Okay.
That's
That's-
about.
So you have us staying the same or moving up one.
Yeah, Elliot and I are in the same vein there.
And Carmen.
I think I said 8 or 9 was
Yeah,
where I
you were right
was.
with
I
me.
was right there. Oh, I might be with Dave still. Like I can't go above 7 still, just because we have a lot of hard games.
I said the last game, based on all the talent we have now, we would be awful if we had to play in that playoff game, the 8-9 game. You would think we get into the regular draw, proper, but that's probably it at the 8.
Well, one thing I'm happy about at this
7,
point, regardless, is I feel like the soccer is a little more enjoyable to watch. What's your take on that?
Yes. Even though I haven't been watching, I've been watching the clips and trying to catch up a little bit. So I haven't watched full games, but it seems better, especially on the offensive side.
Offensively, we're better.
Yeah. And I'm just not as frustrated in general. Even, the Lennon goal is maddening because we've talked about it so much with the pinching in. But the games have been entertaining. There's been moments where we look really sharp. The skill of some of these players is exciting, of course. But Dave, do you think that part of this is just kind of dragging out Pineda's tenure here? What do you think?
Oh, I didn't think about that.
I think the answer is unfortunately yes. I think there's very little chance that we don't make the playoffs. Even if we slump, I don't think we're going below 9. If you look at the gap below 9 is too far. With our talent, if we go below 9, then it's atrocious. We almost cannot win a game and probably finish above 9. How many points do we have? We said that 9th place is typically 42 or 43. Where are we at? We're at 42, right? So we cannot win anything, and we'd probably get the 9, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be probably 42 or 43 is going to finish the 9th place. So, we're making the playoffs. Yeah. And to me, if I'm Atlanta United, squeezing in the playoffs with the highest paid roster in the league again, or the second highest, nobody really knows, but one of the highest for sure in this fan base or whatever, to me is not good enough. If you've given Pineda 2 full years and a partial half year, he blew it in the playoffs the first year. We just limped into the playoffs after Valentin did such a good job, right? He did an amazing job, got us in the playoff spot. We basically limped in down the stretch under Pineda once he took over, and then we went out in the first round to New York City FC. Yeah. I mean, we didn't even put up a fight.
Yeah.
And then last year, we don't make the playoffs. And if this year in year 3, you make the playoffs at, 7 or 8, is that good enough?
With arguably the potential candidate for the Golden Boot and MVP of the league on your team.
Oh, wow.
Just with those 2 players, you should be top 4 at least.
Oh, and a starting center back for the U.S. men's national team.
Right.
Like those are rarities to have in the MLS.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Right.
Those are 3 gems that you have on your team. And let's not forget the other solid players that we have around.
We have some terrific players. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you don't see too many people.
But I think the answer is going to be he makes the playoffs. They're going to bring him back. And I have said, and I will continue to say it, the boss move is, let's say Pineda gets into, obviously Pineda goes on a run. He gets to the semifinals or finals. Then, you probably, I guess, have to bring him back. I still would have some hesitancy if he gets there from a 7th or 8th spot, because he'd be like, that's sort of a fluke run, but you'd have to probably do it. But I think the boss moves, let's say he gets in the playoffs at 7, we go out in the first round, which is, I think, likely, right? The boss move is to say, we're Atlanta, we're a big club, we're going to establish, in the MLS, there hasn't really been this thing about big clubs and small clubs like there is with Manchester United and Manchester City versus Bournemouth. Exactly. Small club, big club, right? Or even more like Real Madrid and Barcelona versus the entire rest of the league, right? So if we're a big club, we should establish that we're a big club, and we throw a ton of money at Pat Noonan, the Cincinnati coach, right? Because Cincinnati, 3 consecutive years, they finished last place in the whole MLS. Okay. They didn't really upgrade that much, hardly at all.
Yeah.
Right. They brought in a young guy in Vasquez, and he's made him awesome. And he's made Acosta, who was there the whole time. Yeah. Right. Those are the big players. Right. He comes in, and in their first year, they finish 5th. They make the playoffs and finish 5th. Now they're running away with the Supporters Shield. How is that? Yeah. That's coaching, is what I got to say. And if you watch the game against us, they totally outcoached us. They never panicked after we scored early. They dominated the game after that, and they beat us here in the Benz. So in my opinion, let's go be a boss and be like, you're still a small club, Cincinnati, and we're going to take your coach.
So since we have Elliot on the line, I thought I know he's listening to us be critical of Pineda. Of course, I agree. If he gets us to the semifinals here, different story. But I don't know, Elliot, if we don't compete for making a run in MLS Cup here, what are your opinions on Pineda continuing to 2024? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I think most of the supporters would probably, if we limp out of the playoffs, most supporters would probably have enough. Carmen, are you going to weigh in on this? Where are you on this?
About the coach?
Yeah, what happens in that scenario? Let's say we limp out of the playoffs. Stay or go?
I think he will stay, even though I would really want him to go. Really, but I love the boss move. Like, we're going to take your girl. I love it. I love it. We're coming for you.
I do like that move.
All right.
But Katz, there's a Facebook user who you may know because he keeps referring to you personally.
Okay.
But he goes, please, for the love of God, don't bring Pineda back. And also, Dave, how about Arsenal? Manchester United is awful. Ten Hag whining like a baby after them.
That sounds like a Jason Russell potential listener there. If he's talking Arsenal.
Yeah. So you're a Man United fan too, Carmen. You can wait. Did you watch the Arsenal match?
Yes.
What were your thoughts?
I would have whined like a baby too.
And by the way, is it time to have our European correspondent Simon Katz in on the podcast? I think
so.
He's got a lot to say.
We can also have him jump in remote too.
Yeah, that's true. Simon, are you out there? No.
No, I whine because I'm a Manchester United fan. Okay. Mikey Dobbs, I know you say technology, there is a line. Yes. There is an offside line that if it shows you're offside, you're offside.
You're off, you're off.
But I swear he wasn't off.
I think that they had the line wrong.
Okay, so you can't have the line wrong.
Wait, the computer made a mistake? You told us the computer can't make a mistake.
I don't think they had that technology correct after watching that. Like, that guy's head was keeping him onside, correct? Is this the same one?
It's the one.
Yeah, he jumps back to try to keep him off.
Yeah. I'm with you. I honestly, again, this is where I think the fine line and where they pause it on when it's leaving the foot and how they want to define where that line is. Dave, your face is making me angry right now.
Well, the Facebook user says you're drunk, Mikey.
I was going to say, so first of all, Mikey Dawes told me that the computer can't be wrong. So the computer can't be wrong. And to be honest with you, I've watched the clip, many times and seen the angle, whatever. And I think he's offside. I think the computer got it right.
You do?
Yeah. There's a chip in the ball. So there's not an issue about when the ball is kicked.
There is a chip in the ball.
Yes, there's a chip in the ball in the EPL.
Okay, look at that.
So that to me is bananas. But I don't think the computer's wrong. I think it's sad because is that the spirit of the game? But I think, Mikey Dobbs convinced me a while ago that a call is a call, and that's the call.
I have no problem with it. I just want to know how the Qatar one that has the different angles.
Yeah.
I want the confidence that all of the angles on where they're drawing that line is geometrically correct based on where it's being paused, Dave?
I think it is.
If it is, then great.
It just looked prettier from the World Cup. It looked more
So-
3D-ish or something. I don't.
So, okay, then I will rewind my little rant there because,
Okay.
of course, I believe in the technology getting it correct.
Yeah.
If a bunch of smart people who say this technology is spot on, then stop showing the lines. Call it off and move on. Like, he was offside, let's move on. Stop even giving the benefit of the doubt to the viewers to have this angst, right? Do they show over and over again now in tennis whether it was a fault or not?
Yes, they have a little slow motion
Do
and
they? I
the
don't watch
ball
tennis.
bounces or whatever.
I feel like
I
that's
think you
really-
love that. To me, the lines,
I think
and
they
one of
do.
the things they said is actually, so in the Premier League, they have a, what do they call it? It's basically an error, a margin of error, right? So they actually put a line where the defender is the furthest most like major part of your body, and they do the same thing for the attacker. And they say that the lines are very thin. If the lines touch,
Okay.
that's considered to be within the margin of error, and you can actually overrule that. But if the lines are separate, they're not. So they actually have a rule for this, that they can actually, the referee, even if the line is technically further for the defender, if they're touching, then they can call them onside and they can give the advantage to the attacker. In this case, there was a little sliver of grass in between the two lines, and so the referee didn't have a discretion. So the computer was saying not only was he offside, but it's very close, but it wasn't as close as the computer can get.
Wait. I need you to back that up for a second. So you're saying with the lines,
Yeah.
if these lines kind of touch,
Yep.
the ref or whoever, the
There's
VAR.
no kind of touch.
Okay,
Either
so
touch
if
or
they
don't.
touch,
If they touch, he
they
can be
have
on.
discretion, so they can go either way.
I think if they touch, the referee can say, like, so when it's touching, then they can actually look at I think the overall of it, right? Which is, was he really sort of ahead? Was it a finger that was over?
Uh-huh.
Whatever it was.
Okay.
If they're touching. If it's not touching, they have no discretion, and that's ruled outside of the margin of error. And because I think they do say the computer has a very small margin of error. That's why they're giving it when the lines touch. But this case, the lines didn't touch, and the computer said no way it missed that call.
Sounds like you're pretty read up on this.
It does.
No, I've never read anything
It
about
does.
this.
It very much so.
It does.
I mean, he knows the chips in the ball in the Premier League. He
So-
knows about lines.
In the MLS, there's not even a freaking computer.
No, and the reason
God bless.
I was questioning that call is because the angle that they showed it on
did.
was a poor angle for
was.
drawing the line.
Yes.
It was.
And so if you're telling me they have cameras, I know Qatar can afford 100 cameras in the same, so they had every angle. I don't know that the EPL has every angle, and that's my skepticism on that particular call, which I still will stand by. That is the technology set up to be correct. I still have some skepticism because that one angle was really poor. I'm like, that's a really piss poor angle to draw a line from.
The
right?
computer knows
It
that
was
it's a bad angle and corrects for it, though, Mikey Dobbs.
Not if the camera isn't in the right position. You can't draw the right line.
Computer knows.
The computer knows. All right.
You
I
were the
think-
one who convinced me.
I think
that.
I know. I think
We flipped.
if you've invested in the cameras being
Nah.
there from enough angles, yes.
I agree. And I think to me, bringing it full circle to MLS, it is absolutely shambolic. Hit the freaking button that we don't even have a computer doing this. There's not even a computer in MLS.
Jacket on this guy.
How in America, right? I mean, technology, home of the free. How in America can we somebody on fire because how do we not have a computer?
We've talked about this a million times. And Don Garber should be embarrassed.
Yeah, he should be embarrassed.
Don
'Cause
Garber should be
in the
embarrassed.
Premier League, we're talking about whether the computer got the line.
Don
right.
Garber keeps saying he wants this league to be the most progressive
Yes.
league in the world. Not if you're like already 7 years behind in terms of using, the latest technology.
We don't have goal line technology. We don't. I mean,
It's
You don't have goal line technology either?
No, I don't think so.
Oh,
I'm not sure
Yeah.
about that.
I think
So
we
I
do.
could be.
I
We
think
do
we
have
do.
goal line.
Yeah.
I'm not
I
sure.
have no idea.
But we do not have. I mean, this is what's nuts in the MLS. We have offsides calls. The ref goes to the VR monitor, right? That never happens in the Premier League because the computer makes the call, right? They never go to the VAR monitor unless there's some issue about who it came off of or whatever.
Or
But
a
in
foul,
terms of
yeah.
who was offside, the computer tells you.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it, right?
Mhm.
In the MLS, they go to the line, and sometimes it matters how they cut the grass and whether the guy can see it. You're like,
It's way worse than the situation we're talking about right now in the Man U
Ugh.
Arsenal game.
this is America.
Yeah. It's America.
America.
All right.
Hell yeah.
I think we've talked about it all, and then
Yes, we
we've
have.
crossed the offside line.
Yes,
Yeah. We are offside.
Elliot, thank you for joining.
Yeah, thank you,
ATL
Elliot, for
Thanks,
being
Elliot.
our first live guest. We appreciate you.
Hey. Come back and
Yeah,
join
thanks for
us.
listening. Thanks for listening,
Yeah.
everybody else. And
Take care, y'all.
have a great week.
Bye, guys.
See ya.
It's lively. I like it.